Thank you for the opportunity, and I know that sometimes I struggle with my English, so I wrote something so you can read instead of my listening. With this paper, I would like to achieve two goals. The first of all is to show some pictures of the Italian synagogues, especially in the north of Italy. And the second goal I would like to achieve is to face one of the biggest problems we are approaching to, which is the fruition and conservation of synagogues when Jewish community disappeared. First of all, we are speaking about North Italy because Jewish cultural heritage is highly fragmented and has been entrusted to the management of individual communities. And it is a heritage notably dispersed, with a greater concentration in the north of Italy than the south and center, due to historical events. Because King of Naples in 1510 forced Jews living in Sicily, Calabria and Naples to leave the south. And so Jewish population in Italy remains a cultural minority whose artistic and architectural heritage is facing serious difficulties regarding survival and preservation. Protection and maintenance of synagogues in areas where Jewish communities have disappeared is addressed through varying approaches and with different objectives, even within the same region. These papers aim to analyze and compare individual cases in three regions in the northern Italy: Veneto, Lombardy and Piedmont. Our first reflections concerns the Veneto, which is in the northeastern Italy, with specific attention given to the ghetto and synagogues of Venice. The historic Venetian ghetto was the subject of research projects, conferences, exhibitions during the 2016 celebration for the anniversary of the ghetto's establishment, and that provided a unique opportunity for additional study and research. The region of Veneto offers a wide variety of synagogues, not yet organized into a single network. This is the Venetian Ghetto Novo, which was established in 1516 and was the first maybe of the world, and became a principal destination for German and Italian Jews of the southern central origin. The location chosen for the purpose of housing Venice Jews was once called Terra del Ghetto, which means a muddy islet facing the boundaries of the Cannaregio district, which served as a dumping ground for waste materials. The ghetto then expanded in three phases, but still boasts 5 synagogues, or scole, as we call it in Italian. Veneto synagogues, in addition to the museum, which is another synagogue, in addition to the Jewish Museum, are extremely popular and currently visited by a great number of visitors and tourists. The unique nature of the city of Venice and its great attraction as a tourist destination account for a large number of visitors to its temples, and it has therefore become necessary to protect the extremely vulnerable buildings from an excessive number of visitors. For example, guided tours are offered to only a limited number of participants, and in this case, the act of musealization demonstrated itself as a viable method for preserving the artistic heritage of a minority community. But there is not only Venice in the same region. There is Padua, which was really important because it housed the only university in Europe where Jews could obtain a degree. And the ghetto was established in 1604, 8 years after the founding of the Venice ghetto. There were 3 synagogues, and one German, one Italian, one Spanish, as well as private oratory. The Jewish Museum in Padua opened its doors in 2015 in the German Rite Synagogue. Padua was in fact the first Italian city to consider the conversion of holy sites, and that tradition was carried forward with the opening of its Jewish Museum, which is a multi-purpose conference area, halls for meetings, classroom for teaching and guided tours, as well as multimedia installation where visitors can go through the ancient Jewish city. And the other city I chose to speak about is Verona, which of course is my favorite because I come from there. And in Verona, during the year of 1599, workshops, Jewish households, German Rite synagogue settled in the ghetto. In 1863, the German Rite synagogue was declared unfit for use due to structural damage. The Verona synagogue belongs to the so-called Emancipation group, and it is clearly identifiable externally. But during the year 1924 to 1928, there was a period of demolition and urban renewal, and so the architectural plan of the synagogue itself had to be altered. Now some pictures of the inauguration in 1929. The synagogue now is still in use, and its upkeep has been entrusted to members of a small local Jewish community. But there is no Jewish museum, and so any knowledge of Jewish history in Verona, synagogue, cemetery, some extent and buildings of the former ghetto, remains limited to individual research. But what will its destiny be if there are no members of a Jewish community to utilize its sacred space? At this time, the municipality doesn't show interest in the protection and management of its Jewish heritage. Its sole concern is providing security for the structure. That's it's important, but it's not enough. Now we are going to another region, which is Lombardy. We are going from east to west of the north of Italy. And the first synagogue I want to speak about is Sabioneta, which is not far from Mantua. Sabioneta is a town that reached its magnificent peak under the reign of the Prince Vespasiano Gonzaga, who established the court. But following the death of this prince, Sabioneta went through a period of decay that caused many Jews to move away from the town. And in 1820, the Jewish community of Mantua proposed a merger between the two communities. As a reaction, one of a well-known architect of the period renovated the prayer hall located in the third floor of a residential complex. Now, there is no local Jewish community because it became extinct at the beginning of the 20th century, and the temple, after years of neglect, was restored in 1994, and it's now included in the University Museum too. In Mantua, which is not far from the previous one, the ghetto was established in 1621. Jews endured periods of misery and plague that halved the community. The area of Ghetto was profoundly transformed by demolition in 1904, where were 3 synagogues of German Rite, but they closed one after another and then were demolished. The only synagogue is still surviving in Mantua is the Synagoga Nostra Terrazzo. And the only surviving member of the local Jewish community is always very willing to conduct visits, give an explanation. This example of goodwill is not a lasting solution of the conservation and management of its Jewish heritage. In Milan, which is of course one of the well-known town in Italy, according to the Visconti rule before and then to the Sforza rules, Jews could stay in the city at most for 3 days. So Jews finally settled in Milan at the beginning of the 19th century. The Israelite temple was planned by a very famous architect, which is well known for his theory about restoration in Greece, Luca Beltrami, and it was inaugurated in 1892. Only the facade of the original building survives because of the bombing during the Second World War. Now, the Jewish community is really a big community because it hosts schools from elementary schools to high school. But the synagogue is difficult to visit except for religious reasons. Now, a case of good practice, because the other region near Lombardy is Piedmont, and Piedmont boasts 13 synagogues in the same region, belonging to various Jewish communities, and are all well preserved and restored, without having becoming sterile museums or mere touristic attractions. I want to show a list, without going to details, in which I can show some. This is one of the networks you can find of the region. And now some synagogues in Asti. It was restored, that there is no Jewish community. Alessandria, was built after Emancipation. Emancipation in Italy hasn't the same period for all the regions, but after 1848 became to spread. And here this interior, because it's very impressive, it's similar to a theater. But this is Carmagnola, which is a ghetto synagogue, not so impressive as the previous one, but you can see the holy furnitures. Cuneo, the same problem because it has no Jewish community. Mondovì, with no Jewish community. Another one is Carasco. We are really even not so close one-to-one. And Saluzzo, which belonged to the 18th century, and Ivrea, which was inaugurated in 1875 with only 15 Jewish members of the local community. And the last one is Biella. Among them, I want to show in details more synagogues belonging to the same region. The synagogue in Torino, which was established in 1679, ghetto in this region were established later than in the Veneto regions. And the architect designed the new temple conforming to the Moorish style, and it was specifically required the Moorish style for this new building. In 1942, the Turin temple was heavily damaged by bombing, and in September 1945, a choice was made to rebuild the architectural shell. So the synagogue has therefore maintained its identity and presence in terms of urban planning and location, but the interior is devoid of any decoration, and it can be struck the visitor as impersonal. It's now a place of worship frequented by the Jewish community of Turin, which is really active and involved in cultural initiatives and devoted to the maintenance and promotion of its heritage. Another synagogue of the same region is Vercelli, which was established in 1740. And in 1863, the local Jewish community decided to build a new synagogue according to the new Moorish style. Vercelli belongs to the Emancipation period, and the interior is really impressive because it boasts 600 meters east-west axis. The problem is in Vercelli that the temple is open from time to time, and trained volunteers offer occasional guided tours. Jewish community of Vercelli also manages the synagogues of Biella, which I saw before, and Novara, and coordinates access as required. Caretaking and utilization of the synagogue is tightly limited, in spite of the goodwill of all participants who work to spread the knowledge of Judaism. And we are going to the last, which is quite famous, not as Venice, but maybe you can show some pictures about it, which is Casale Monferrato. In 1724, Ghetto was established, and the synagogue Casale Monferrato is a German Rite synagogue, but it was built in 1595 in the center of the old Ghetto of Casale Monferrato, in a space formerly used as a gym. The synagogue is still in use today by the local Jewish community, and Jewish Museum Annex displays a wide collection of valuable items and provides explanation of Judaism. The preservation of identity is in this case entrusted to the museum itself. There are guided tours offered to school children of the region who may have the opportunity to come into contact with the Jewish world. The local Jewish community still boasts members who are willing to generously share their knowledge and experience. So, in conclusion, I thought some cases of reussion and of synagogues. And there are few cases of Italian synagogues repurposed for other uses than religious one. Among them, the synagogue of Ivrea, which was ceded to the city in 1980 to be converted into a conference room and a concert hall. It was restored, seemed to have returned to its former splendor, but poor maintenance, sporadic use, and continuous seepage are leading the building to ruin. despite the good intentions, can't be counted among the best cases of protection and conversion of disused buildings. As we saw in the previous slides, unfortunately, the local Jewish community is reduced to just one family, and so is unable to manage the preservation of its heritage. Not even the municipality has sufficient resources to maintain this historic building. The most common circumstance regarding temples located in towns without a local Jewish community is the closure of the buildings, with occasional openings for the benefit of the neighboring Jewish community. So, what are the correct choices for a conscious protection and maintenance of Jewish heritage? How is it possible to spread and raise awareness of Jewish culture throughout the Italian population? Coming back to Venice, it should be emphasized that Venice welcomes many visitors, including American and Israeli religious tourists, who come to visit the world's oldest Jewish ghetto and its museum, with guided tours which show 3 synagogues according to the period. Our museum was opened in 1954, and it is now entrusted to a cooperative which deals with educational programs and guided tours. I think there should be a thematic link between the cities of the 3 regions, Veneto, Lombardy, and Piedmont, which could offer a potential visitor the opportunity to survey many aspects of Jewish life, allowing an investigation into the different historical periods that marked the different areas. The region could provide some coordination between communities by providing qualified staff who can support volunteers members and promote dissemination of knowledge. A positive example is provided by the Piedmont Jewish communities working together to facilitate a visitor route. Some towns, such as Carmagnola and Asti, which saw before, entrusted visits and guided tours to various cooperatives which are specialized guide of Jewish culture. The idea of providing well-trained and experienced non-Jewish guides could be a good solution. For the Republic of Italy, protection of Jewish heritage as well as understanding and promotion of its history should be primary goals to be pursued with care and expertise, keeping in mind the illuminated examples mentioned previously. Awareness of identity arises from knowledge, a principle which must be converted into a drive to protect and preserve the heritage of a religious minority, which made significant contributions to the history of the Italian nation.
Thank you.